Mirë se vini në këtë episod të ri të Stacionit Startupeve. Sot kemi një episod të veçantë, kemi të ftuar Skrami, një sipërmarrëse e suksesshme nga Diaspora e Shqipërisë, e lindur dhe e rritur në Itali, me një eksperiencë globale dhe sot do ndaj historinë e saj mbi sfidat, suksesin, mbi startupin e saj që ka themeluar gjithashtu pjesë e listës Forbes 30 under 30 në Itali. Iris, mirë se erdhën në podcastin tonë.
Faleminderit dhe shumë e lumtur.
Shumë faleminderit që keni ardhur. We're going to switch it to English now. I think it's going to be
Shumë turp, por
no, you have great Albanian. I heard you before speaking in Albanian. You are very, let's say, it was a good masterclass. You did introduction to the Startup Albania agency. And now we're doing the podcast. So I would like to start, Iris, with your let's say before founding your startup, Renoon, which is definitely, I mean, I don't know if I can call it a startup again, but it's now a successful company. You worked with Nike, you work with other international brands. What did those experiences in the corporate culture, as you explained also before, taught you about innovation, and what made you decide I'm going to be a founder now?
Yeah, so I indeed worked in corporates, and that's where I started my career. So I remember my dad had asked me when I was little what I wanted to do when I grew up, and my answer was, I want to be the CMO of a big corporate. So I wanted to be chief marketing officer or CEO. I wanted to go for the corporate world. And what made me switch? I still ask myself what made me switch, in the sense that I never planned to become an entrepreneur. It all happened because when I was working in this corporates, I realized that there was a part of me, both like personal, but also in terms of there was something in the world that I was becoming really passionate and I wanted to build it. And I basically discovered, and this was before COVID times, and it was really the initial time where companies were starting to invest in sustainability. And it was a big topic, especially for corporates internationally, but also was coming into Europe. And Europe is one of the first actually countries and continents that has sustainability and has been investing in sustainability so much. And I knew that I wanted to build something for it because in the corporates, they were missing the tools. So I was like, okay, why don't we build something? And when we indeed found this idea, and I found this idea, I pitched it to my business partners that then became my business partners. I also found a technical co-founder. And I was like, okay, I have all the ingredients, and now I want to start a company. But yeah, really, I didn't start my career thinking that I wanted to start a company.
And so Renoon is built around transparency, it's built around digital product passports, and long before they were mainstream topics, as you discussed about the EU, the circular economy, the sustainability and stuff. How, when were you convinced, I mean, about this idea long before the trend, I might say?
Yeah, and it always starts like this, right? For any entrepreneur, you have to somehow there is a vision or a need internal that suddenly also the world recognizes, because sometimes if you're too late on something, of course you catch it too late, and it's probably then you need to be 10 times better at doing it in order to surpass like everything the other companies that were there before you. So in my case, maybe I was a little bit too early, if too early is possible. A bit too early because also there it means that you have to take the companies through different stirs in order to make sure that it still is there, it has the resources to move forward. And but too early again. It's also about the market and the vision, in the sense that there's always something happening in the world in which your startup or the company that you're starting, it's not urgency enough. So again, with Renoon, what now became more interesting is when our vision became a regulatory need. So basically, the European Union 3 years ago decided and said, okay, transparency and traceability are now a must. So we're going to require companies to have digital product passports in order to sell in Europe. So then, of course, then it became a race into being the first company that provides that.
Okay. And during this entrepreneurial journey, I mean, were there any stages, like biggest challenges that you faced, and maybe a short introduction what the company does now?
Yeah. So starting a company, it's like a roller coaster.
Exactly, ups and downs.
Especially at the beginning, there's one day that you wake up and you feel like, oh, and maybe also in the same day, you wake up and you feel like you're the next Facebook. And then after 2 hours, you're like closing down. So it's a huge roller coaster. And the emotional journey that you go through, it's non-comparable to any other jobs or any other career paths that you would follow. So basically, what we do now, and just to start as an introduction of Renoon and what the solution does, is that we help SMEs and enterprise companies get ready for this legislation. So basically, we turned the vision that we had into a world where products give this information to consumers. So if I'm a consumer, I know where this product is coming from. We turned it into a need and a way that we help companies basically prepare for a legislation. I mean, the need is coming from the European Union.
Regulatory.
From it. But we basically operationalize it and we make sure that the companies are doing it in an efficient way, but also in a way that it's interesting for consumers. So we work with a lot of luxury brands, for example. So of course, if you're a luxury brand, if you have a QR code on your products and a consumer scans it, you want to make sure that it's authentic. You want to make sure that it also has an experience that the consumer who buys a certain luxury product also would have in a store or on the original web shop. So we are investing and helping companies take that path towards also creating, and for us it also means basically having a consumer culture of a product. So you as a consumer, you know where your product is coming from, but also can kind of interact with it. And it can be both because you're interested in the origin of the product, so the craftsmanship, the story of how the product became, so it becomes more dear to you, you want to use it more. But also then in another way. So if you're consuming fashion because you like fashion, maybe that product can allow you to access more services or more entertainment from the company itself. And I mean, we're in 2026, so we have digital everywhere. It makes sense that also our clothes can talk to us.
Especially, let's say, when the fast fashion industry, it's, let's say, one of the biggest polluters in the world. And maybe this traceability and sustainability that you visualize to the consumers helps and keep them accountable to a certain point, because it also has like a social component. If the workers are paid, or what's the contractor that has produced the clothes and the fashion industry? Do they have contracts? Where does it come from? What's the sustainability of the materials that are used for this product? I want to switch back a bit to your Albanian origin. I mean, you are a Diaspora shqiptare, and we have a very dear, let's say, connection with our diaspora. They are thriving at these stages in the world. Just wanted to know how this shaped your perception being, let's say, born and raised in Italy by Albanian parents, regarding entrepreneurship, regarding migrants, or second-generation migrant, if I might say, to succeed in the world. And how is your connection to Albania right now?
Yeah, so I was sitting at lunch with a person just a few months ago, and he was actually asking me, how come that as a second-generation immigrant, you're actually so risk-adverse? Because usually if you're growing up in a situation where your parents had left the country and they have to start everything from scratch, usually you have lower tolerance for risk. And and I was like, no, my tolerance of risk is fine. I actually have more tolerance of risk than needed. And it was really funny because it made me think, of why have I started indeed a company? Why have I not gone through a normal path? And what is really that drives it, and how much also my Albanian origin has taken its shape? I think also because everybody who is a second generation immigrant child also knows that Albanian parents are very strong with you. They want you to be
the best.
Exactly, the best in everything you do. So somehow when you reach a certain point where it's like, okay, I'm the best, I can be the best, but then what more can be the best? So you go in the world, and if especially entrepreneurship really allows you to create a part of yourself in the world that otherwise the world would miss, you know? And that I think it's the most beautiful part of entrepreneurship. And again, the difficult part was also for me, and this I sometimes say, the first decision to start a company. I remember the first most difficult part was, okay, I'm going to tell my dad I'm actually leaving the corporate and starting a company. And I had prepared like all the
presentation deck for that.
Exactly. And I was prepared to really I had armored myself because I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go to war with my dad and convince him.
Unconventional, like
exactly.
Going from corporate.
But it was actually surprising because when I got on a call, because at the time I was already living abroad, I got on a call with my dad and I said, look, blah, 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 I'm really passionate about this topic. I'm going to start a company. I have no idea. I have to start everything from scratch, learn how to do everything, but I'm going to do it. He's like, good for you. So he didn't really argue or whatever. So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do with my arms now and all the armor that I had built for that. But yeah, I was very surprised that my dad was actually, I kind of always wanted to do it also myself. But yeah, of course, my path was different. So I'm happy that you have the courage and the power to do that. I'll support you.
Thumbs up that. And coming back now to your visit in Albania, you delivered a masterclass, a workshop with young talents, entrepreneurs from Albania and from the Startup Albania innovation ecosystem. Your thoughts on that? What surprised you the most about the whole experience?
I saw a very diverse public of entrepreneurs, one that really excited me because I can see very entrepreneurial people. So there were also people who have started businesses, and starting a startup, let's say, quote unquote, doesn't mean that you always have to grow it in a multi-billion-dollar company. Yeah. But even starting multiple businesses and running businesses, it's key. And so meeting also people who have businesses and they're maybe starting multiple businesses now, or they're at their third or fourth business. And now they're thinking, instead of having like a local business, but having a more international startup, that I think it's a great capital to have in a country like Albania. Because as a first-time entrepreneur, I had to learn a lot of things, right? That if you're an entrepreneur, even if it's from a local business, you still, you know how life works, you know? So you can much more easily launch and really be successful in other domains and more internationally. So I think it was really exciting for me to see that there is a community and people in Albania like that. But I also saw indeed startup founders with ideas that also belong to an international market, or ones that are innovating maybe consumer products or services that already exist. And but of course they're bringing the youth to it, and also the interest of having an internationalization later on, which is again key.
Looking now at the whole of Albania, let's say approach national one, and perhaps let's say Albania has developed quite a lot in the last few years, not only the EU accession process, but also, let's say, the innovation eco startup system. If you ask somebody about 10 years or 15 years ago, it was basically not as advanced as it is now. What are some potential that you see for Albania itself regarding not only the startup, but also the innovative economy? And what do you think is still missing now, or we can do better as a government, but also as entrepreneurs to, let's say, go to the next stage of development?
Yeah, what we did today is great because it creates even having diaspora Albanian and having this mix of who comes back. And this has been also the success of other startup ecosystems. So if you look at the US, if you look at Italy now, Italy has been having now just a few days ago, Bending Spoons, an Italian company, they IPO'd in the NASDAQ. And that's going to bring a lot of knowledge, but also capital back into the market. So the more also the ecosystem can bring people from the outside, but also the inside in a way that can cross-pollinate each other. And so that's definitely one. The second, as we said, having also more international startup ecosystems. So working with other startup ecosystems that can always help. For example, Italian ecosystem has always worked also with the American one to kind of have that opening. That has always is less successful because it's different than having your people actually be successful and bring that success back. So the first one is key. But again, as I said, I was really surprised to see very good business people, businessmen and businesswomen today. And I think also giving them the opportunities to bring their businesses abroad, it's key. But again, that might mean that XYZ goes to the US, opens a business, has success, and then comes back. That's also, for example, what the Bending Spoons did. Their company works internationally. And once they were also a success, they decided to have the operations and the offices in Milan. So similarly can happen in Albania, right? So you can have an international business and keep the offices in Albania. So that is going to be key. So retaining the winner.
Well, following up on that right now on the question, I mean, you mentioned quite a lot of countries. Armenia had a very good program of repatriation program for diaspora, people investing or incentivizing the investment of diaspora in the country. Albania is also taking some steps through its national diaspora strategy. Is there a near future perhaps where Renoon could invest in Albania or let's say have local partners, since we are also let's say in the negotiation process regarding the environmental chapters, regarding sustainability chapters with the European Union, so we could help Albanian companies here to let's say follow the regulations on the traceability of let's say in the fashion industry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also funny enough, fashion, because you mentioned it's one of the industries, but it's funny enough that it's the first industry, but then it's going to be other industries. So for example, also with Renoon, we've started to work with other industries as well. Funny because the European Union said fashion is one of the most polluting ones, so we're starting with that one. But there's going to be also construction, etc., etc. So we as Renoon, we're not going to cover all of the different industries. So for example, even today I was speaking to a founder that she is building in a similar space, but for the construction industry. So it's a different industry. And again, there could be partnerships that happen through with Renoon and the companies here.
One last question. Any advice that you would have for young entrepreneurs or people who'd like to, let's say, get into that field of entrepreneurship? Because it's a tough one. Let's put it that way. And for young aspiring Albanian students or people who want to start a business tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you have to really feel it within you. If you have that drive, if you feel like you really want to start it, I would say first check with it. Like if you have that drive, then go for it. And I always have these 3 rules that I follow for myself. One is to listen to advice, but then follow my own. And this is incredibly important, especially when you have already started the journey and because you're a cool startup, everybody wants to tell you how they did it or give you ideas. And it becomes just...
In Albania we say pyet 20 vet, bëj si di vet. Diçka e tillë domethënë, se s'kum kujtohet mirë.
Kisha ruar. Po kishim po.
Paralele me këtë.
Perfect. And then my second is to always, when you're an entrepreneur, you always get, you think that you don't have enough time or that you have too much time. So time for me is both my friend and my enemy, I say, because when I started the company, they teach you, you have to do pre-seed, then seed, then series A, B, blah, 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 and then go to IPO. They try to give you a map. But the reality is that when you're starting a company, you don't have a map. You're actually going into a wood, into a forest that nobody has explored before. So trying to go with the map and always getting angry with the map because it's not showing you the right way, it's counterproductive. So for me, in this map, time has been one of the greatest ones that I was like, okay, like I have to follow that, but it's not actually true. And again, there's so many ups and downs to it that necessarily it's a follow-to process, and you can't look at how much time has passed. Is it too long or is it too short?
You've also worked with AI, I believe, and it's like the main buzzword of, let's say, of the 2020s and so on and so forth. How do you see the AI like in the fashion industry, but also like changing the whole ecosystem that you work in?
So it's an interesting question because AI is both changing everything and changing nothing in the sense that even internally in our company, we've basically adopted it almost everywhere, but still it's kind of like the month after it became normal. So it feels like we're doing a different type of work, but yeah, it's the same.
It's not life-changing.
No.
It's just a co-pilot.
Correct. And as we see also in the corporates, AI has been invested tenfold and then divested. So a lot of companies have also divested in it, said, okay, I'm going to wait out on this AI wave. Exactly. Because how sometimes it does happen is that you have this huge hype and you think, okay, AI is going to take over everything, which is not actually true. It's an interesting part of how you start a business today, though, because it means that the time, again, on the time is compressed into what you can achieve, right? So as a founder, you can test the market faster, you can go to market faster, you can build faster. So building is less the problem, going to market is less the problem. So what remains, the problem is the core of who you are as a company, as a founder, and the service that you provide and the product you provide. With your ideas and the way that you can instruct AI to do that, but it's kind of like we all become art directors at the end.
Exactly. Iris, shumë faleminderit që ishit pjesë e stacionit Startupeve, shumë faleminderit që ishit pjesë e masterclassit nga agjencia Startup Albania. Unë të uroj shumë suksese në të ardhmen.
Faleminderit.
Dhe mirë që shqiptarë, diasporës kontribuojnë, gjejnë kohën të vinë edhe të bëjnë knowledge sharing në këtë rast për ekosistemin e startupeve në Shqipëri.